I work as solutions architect at Twilio. Am I audible?
Yeah.
All good? Okay. Yeah, so I work as solutions architect at Twilio, based in same office as Tanya in London. And as she said, today we are going to have a little chat about programmable chat.
Yeah, thank you, Abhijit. And more specifically, what's so programmable about it? What's the key concepts? And more importantly, how can programmable chat power communications with your customers? But before we go into specifics, I want to tell you a little story about my interaction with customer support of one online bank. That's not the actual name, but for the sake of this presentation, let's say that their name is TravelDosh. So the story goes like this. This July, I found myself in San Francisco without access to my account where I had all of my dollars exchanged for the trip. And that experience with customer support made me really frustrated as a customer. It was super inefficient on the end of TravelDosh. And I'm going to tell a slightly simplified version of my experience, just pointing out the main pain points. And the frustration that I felt as a customer who doesn't know all the complications of the compliance process. So there we go. I'm in San Francisco. My card is blocked because I suddenly made a big transaction in the country where I haven't used this card before. This can happen to anyone if you don't inform your online bank that you're traveling up front. And when your account is blocked, your app, the only way you can access your money, is also blocked. And the only thing you can do is contact support by the means of in-app chat. And that's the only way I could contact TravelDosh. They don't have any other channel to contact. So I write to the chat, can you unblock my account? And I automatically am informed that the queue is 4 hours. All right, so in 4 hours, the agent is available, and I'm not, just because of the difference in time zones and their working hours. And when agent is available and asks me how can they help, I miss it. And after some time, they close the chat. Then when I come online again, I have to go through the 4 hours queue all over again. And this goes on for 3 days. 3 days, can you imagine? Like, this is totally unacceptable in a situation where you're in a foreign country without access to your money. Well, and I'm thinking as a customer, I wish they could have somehow identified that my account is blocked up front, because basically that's the only thing you can do within the app. And that would have been like a clear trigger for them how my issue should be handled in this sort of quite critical situation. Would have saved a lot of time. But all right, 3 days later, I get to the support, finally. And this is a general support team. They ask me basic questions like, how can I help? Or also they ask some basic security questions. But all they do is forward me to the team that can actually help me, the account security team. And that team answers within an hour. So why did I have to wait 4 hours? Let's see what happens next. Then, account security team asks me to upload a statement. And it takes me some time to get that statement from my other bank. And I understand that they need this for verification, but just in an hour or so, they close the chat again. I can't get account statement that fast. And when I upload it finally, I have to wait in the general queue all over again. Makes me think that, well, actually, the whole interaction with them to get my account unblocked, they did it eventually, took over a week, 5 different agents, 3 different departments. But if their process would have been more flexible and customer-centric, not process-centric, I'm sure they could have handled it in a couple of hours. All right. Needless to say, I'm not using TravelDosh again when I'm travel. And it's not because they blocked my account just to begin with, but because this process of getting it unblocked was so frustrating. Right. So enough about the negative. I want to talk also about a story which highlights the kind of customer experience I would expect even when things don't go as planned. So you have just heard a couple of hours ago in the keynote Jeff talking about his interaction with Rinse. And Rinse being sort of an Uber for laundry and also putting a lot of effort into perfecting the art of customer service. So let's just go through that interaction one more time quickly. Excuse me. So how this works is you subscribe and Rinse keeps in touch so that you never forget about your laundry. And here you can see first message is a regular reminder to Jeff that the pickup is going to be today on that time, and if he wants them to come by, he should just reply yes, which he does. And this is an expected response, and you can tell that there is a bot of some sort on the other end that parses that response and confirms the pickup. But as I said, like, things don't always go as planned. And one time, again, you've heard this, but when Jeff was traveling, he missed the regular pickup and but still wanted to get his dry cleaning done, all the white shirts. And he just replied to the last message from Rinse, and at this time, it wasn't a bot that said, well, this is not an expected answer, please call support or write something else. Actually was routed to a contact center where an agent picked up and was able to still arrange for the pickup and the laundry done. Right. And the last one that I want to highlight is when Jeff needed to talk to a particular person at Rinse, and that is a valet who was supposed to pick up the laundry. And Jeff missed the message, missed the pickup, but still, again, white shirts, you know, need to be done. So he replied to that message, and it wasn't a bot again saying that's not the right answer. It wasn't the contact center agent saying, well, you missed the pickup, wait for the next one, or anything else. It was the actual valet. They were able to route it to the actual valet. And that this experience to me is like a lot better compared to mine. I wish I could have that. But what makes it so much more human is that Jeff as a customer was put in the center of the interaction, not the process. And also how seamlessly Jeff was able to contact the business in all three cases, be it bot or a contact center or a valet moving around in the neighborhood. And excuse me. And this is the pattern that we see when we help businesses build their communication experience, is that most customer communication workflows involve customers interacting with a system of some sort, or asking help from a team, like a contact center agent, or needing to talk to a particular individual in the exact time of need, like a valet. And yeah, these are basically same categories we see throughout most of the businesses. Somewhere it's only department, somewhere it's all three. But what sets apart delightful customer experience from a really frustrating one is how seamless is the interaction with the business throughout all of these categories. And also, who is in the center of this interaction? Is it customer, or is it the process that's more important? Or also, how tightly are the communications integrated to the whole workflow? And is the business logic used, or the business logic or the context, are they used to drive that interaction? And again, just to reiterate over this, Twilio offers a set of building blocks to help you build a better experience. And these are infrastructure and APIs. And the ones you might need is some communication channel of some sort, SMS or chat, voice, or all three of those. Or some sort of flexible case routing engine that you can say that this issue goes to the right person at the right time, or the right department. Or a proxy that will enable your customers to talk directly to the mobile workers. But today we're not going to talk about all of those. We won't have enough time, but we will focus on one specific one, which is Programmable Chat, and how it can help you build communication in all those three buckets: system, department, and individual. And for that, I'll welcome on stage Abhijit.
Thank you, Tanya. So let's start with an introduction to programmable chat. What programmable chat essentially is a set of APIs that would allow you to build internet chat applications, either for a web framework or a mobile framework, whether it be an Apple or an Android. So that's pretty much an introductory hello to programmable chat. Now, the next what I want to do is talk through a very important concept that makes a chat as a programmable chat. So what makes that programmable bit in the chat is what I want to spend some time on, and it's essentially webhook. Just by a quick show of hands, how many of you are familiar with what webhook means? So glad. So I don't have to like drill down and emphasize on it, but I'll still quickly walk through what it means. But it's glad to know that people in this room understand this. So in a linear chat, I don't know why I walked over here. I've got clicker. So in a linear chat, what happens? You have got participants, and a participant on side A will send a message to participant on side B. Essentially, it would have two important things, which is who is sending it and what the message body is. Good enough, and usually this is fine, it works well. But when you want to do more intelligent things around this chat, some of the things that Tanya was expecting her provider to do, then this linear chat doesn't help. And this is where we require programmable chat. So moving this to Twilio world, the way this would work is, as usual, when you send a chat message, a participant sends a chat message, it comes into Twilio. Now at this point, Twilio brings into your application into the picture. It sits somewhere outside Twilio flow for the moment, but when the message comes in, Twilio can send in real time, so a push information into your application, which will basically contain information about what really came in. So in this case, it was message, and this push style information sending to your application is a webhook. Now, one of the things to note is it doesn't necessarily have to be a message for that webhook has to go to your application too. It could be any live event, and what it means is so let's take Tanya's example, right? When she logged into an app, she saw a message saying your account is blocked, and that is a live event. A customer of yours seeing that their account is blocked is good enough a trigger for you to communicate, proactively communicate back to this customer. So that could have been captured and sent as a webhook into your business application, and that could have resulted in a proactive chat request. KSA. It could have resulted in a phone call. So the idea is to provide those information, the live event, in real time to your application. Now, what can be done? As I said, I'll take back the example, go back to the example of message. So when message has been sent to your business application layer, you could then reject it, you could then maybe accept it or filter it. Essentially, what you could also do is go back to another application, which is, let's say a center of your customer information, pull out information about this customer and append to this message, and then you can deliver it to the application. So the difference here from linear model is you've now added a bit of let's say control that your business now has over a message that's going through your platform. Two more important points on this slide, that when the information was sent out to your business application, you could have actually propagated that into, let's say, dashboards or customer CRM, any kind of other application. And then this side doesn't necessarily have to be a message. It could very well be any of these communication channels. So as I said, you could have resulted in a callback. And just imagine if Tanya opened the app and saw it was blocked and got a phone call immediately saying, I see there's a problem, how can I help? Will that have been a good customer experience? A question to think about. All right. So just showing what it means when we say you could add context. Here's an example. A linear message started, Tanya said card blocked. But through the power of webhook, now what we have done is we have added all this information. So we've added this, that the location was US. She had been contacting maybe an account manager named Helen there, and the last transaction was in dollars. So all kind of information is something that you could add. So with this webhook and this powers the whole programmability between two application endpoints. All right. So with that information in hand, just quickly looking at what are the building blocks of programmable chat. And in no way I want to say that this is the only object that is present. This is a very important but a small subset of object that programmable chat would give you. Chat service sits on the topmost layer. It is essentially a container of all things chat. So, when you create a service and then you program around this, these separate services are, let's say, non-intersecting buckets. And then two important concepts, channels and users. Both of them will have different roles and permissions. So a user could create channel, add channel, invite members, and a small subset of those users will become members of channels. Once a user becomes a member of channel, any messages that are sent to channels, and it is important that the messages are sent to channels rather than users. So any messages sent to a channel is then subscribed by any users and they could listen to it. Obviously with webhooks you could filter out which user can get the message, which users can't get. So intelligent things like suggesting answers based on your FAQ to agent only can be done because of this webhook. Hope that makes sense. So the next step is, once you've understood what webhook is, what are the building blocks, just quickly have a look at how this whole setup works, how you create a programmable chat experience. Everything starts with your server, which has information of information about your account at Twilio, and then information about your clients. So the very first step is whenever a chat client, and when I say chat client, it's an application running on the app or your website. So whenever a chat client fires up, is initialized, it requires to be authenticated that it's capable of, or it should be allowed to send messages. This is when your server would go and request an access token to Twilio and then send those access tokens to your client. So this could be a web app, a mobile app. Now they are authorized to send messages to Twilio, create channels, read messages, all these things. And what essentially you have done seamlessly is created a channel between these applications to chat, but it's going through Twilio and you're getting a webhooked into your web application. So moving back to these three category of buckets, and one of the things we want you to take away is after this, or maybe later on, is think that in your business, do you think that these are the three wide buckets of communications that you could fit every customer workflow into? We find it that most of the communications fit into these buckets, and what we will try to do now is show how programmable chat fits into each of these three buckets, so that when you design your communication workflow, you have got an additional tool in your belt. All right, so system. Now in this workflow, usually programmable chat sits on the client end, so it could be your mobile app or your web chat, and on the other side is mostly automated system, response system. And this automated response system could be a set of if-else conditions. So, in example Tanya mentioned, there was a Y or N as an expected response. But it could also be a bot which understands the context of the previous messages, which understands the intent. It's able to match different phrases to one intent. So it could be more intelligent. But the idea is there is a bot, there's an automated system, which essentially again does two very wide category of job. The first is fulfillment. So let's say your query is what is my account balance, or what was my last transaction. This is something where you don't require a human to come in. So this is a fulfillment bot which could do the entire job and can give a response back to a client. And then the second category is augmentation or data triage. So where it will do collection of data so that it can, when it goes back to a real human, the information is already present. Then them asking what is your shoe size or what is your statement or all those questions, right? And so using this concept, let's see how could an experience that Tanya had be made much better. So we'll go back to our time machine, which is what we are calling this laptop as for now. And
you're starting.
Okay, so let's say this was the app Travel DOS had, this page, and she gets a message saying account is blocked. And yeah, Tanya, go ahead and do your bit, and
so we're
just imagine you're in San Francisco.
Back in time. Let's see if this works better than last time. Okay, so back then I was really angry. Let's just show them how angry I am. There we go.
Right, so Tanya is really angry, but this bot there now is a bit human, it understands. So it's doing a bit of small talk there.
Okay.
And what we want to show you here is this bot is now doing, while also not making Tanya more angry, it's also doing a bit of data collection here. And So bot was able to figure out that the issue is blocked and she is traveling abroad. So it knows now, it has been programmed or trained to not waste more time here and not send to other department, just send it straight to account security department. Now while the account security department comes back here, let's look at the second bucket, which is department. And this is where a team of people who could handle a request sit in, and programmable chat again sits on here. It sits on both sides. So on the agent side, which is considered a contact center, for example, so it could sit on an agent UI looking at each text-based customer communication. So a communication that could have started from SMS, web chat, or even a voice that is being maybe converted into text in real time. So there's where programmable chat sits on agent side. On the right hand side, it could be your mobile app or your website. So I'm hoping by this time we have customer support available.
Let's see. Didn't take 4 hours this time.
Yeah, we prepared it, isn't it? All right. So so there is a customer support agent available. What you see in front of you is a very simple mock-up of what an agent UI can look like. So this is TravelDOS's agent desktop, and you've got like 3 chats waiting in the queue. Before I click on that, I want to highlight what has system done when bot said, I'll transfer is, it has webhooked into the application, which has now pulled out some bit of information. So there are some information essentially intended to give context to this agent, in this case myself, and this agent looked at the screen and said, I should now start chatting with Tanya, and clicks on that button, which is not behaving for some reason. It is. Yeah, okay. So when this chat started, and I will blame Wi-Fi for this, it took some time, but what has happened is it has brought in the history of conversation that happened here. So now agent essentially looks, there's a problem with account being blocked, and asks for security questions, which is quite normal. So can you answer some security questions, Tanya? Oops. And I'm hoping now Tanya would be happy answering security questions.
Well, let's make it a bit more difficult. Let's imagine that before traveling, I actually informed my account manager that I will be traveling, maybe provided some information, and quite frustrated that I need to do it all over again. So, no.
All right.
Wait, can't send it. I want to talk to my account manager. There we go.
Right. So that makes sense, right? Because if you look at this side, Tanya had supplied her documents when she went traveling, before she went traveling. And then there was Helen Troy, the account manager, had actually accepted that. And there was this another person in the team who has wished her to have a good travel, which she clearly doesn't seem to have. So the chat now should move to account manager. And before we go there, I want to bring in the third bucket of communication. So this is individual bucket that we talked about in Jeff's session, and again Tanya brought it up. And where programmable chat sits here is on all, because you're talking individual peer-to-peer chat, it could be multi-party or 2 parties, but there are 2 humans involved without any system, let's say, in between. So it could sit on any corners really of chat. In this case, let's say this account manager was probably traveling and got this mobile app which has this connection to chat, or he could be very well in the contact center. So let's see a bit of that. So that is, let's say if he was, so the account manager is Helen. She was traveling, let's say. Were you trying something? All right, never mind. So this is now Tanya and the account manager talking. Okay. Which they will in some time as the chatbot comes up.
Yeah. We blame the Wi-Fi.
I'll just type my message anyways. Okay, clearly something's wrong.
There
Right,
has
we'll not try to fix it for now, but
yeah. Well, there has
we'll
to be
wait for
some-
a minute.
There has
I'm
to be
sure.
some trouble with the demo during the talk.
Yeah,
Otherwise
that's
it's
always
not-
the issue with live coding or live demos. I'll try once again, hoping it comes up. But what we were trying to show here, if we succeed, is a peer-to-peer chat between an account manager and the customer, where this customer would say, where the account managers, because thank you,
Yes.
that proves that it wasn't my demo's problem.
Yeah, and maybe I'll get my money back then.
Unblocking the card. Sorry for the trouble. Because Tanya and Helen had a connection. They knew about what's going on. So yeah, let's ask Tanya if this was probably a better experience than what she had earlier.
Obviously, it took 10 minutes, and I got my money back. So
Yeah. Alrighty. So going back to our slides, what did we do? Did we just unblock her card? Well, we definitely unblocked her card so she can have her transactions on. But what we've done is we've unblocked a delightful customer experience. We've shown you where programmable chat fits in. And as Tanya mentioned earlier, there's a whole suite of APIs that would be required to plug in and make a real full contact center with all channels. But yeah, that's pretty much what we wanted to show you today for programmable chat. There are certainly a lot more features that are available. We've recently launched support for multimedia files as well. If you want to have a picture of it and maybe explore it later, we are not going to drill down on this slide. And that brings us to the summary. Let's see what we have done today. We talked about what a delightful customer experience can look like. We've talked about how programmable chat fits in that journey. We've reviewed key concepts of programmable chat, and we had a kind of working demo, or at least something which showed the message. If you want to take a picture, that's fine. Otherwise, when you go to glitch.com, which is our ID that we used, you could just search for Signal Chat and you'd be able to see this app. And the last bit is, go and try this app and give us your feedback. How do you feel about this whole concept? That's pretty much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.